Me, 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 la, 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 la.
It's not that deep, It's not that
You're an idiot. You're starting the whole thing again.
Why? You can hear me from your. Such a bitch.
It's not that deep, bro. Episode 17.
That's right. 17. It's a big number.
It is a big number. We'll do 20. We'll do 20 before the year's out.
Let's hope so. Okay.
How you doing, Martin?
I'm fantastic. How you doing?
Can't complain, you know. I'm feeling the best I've felt in all year. Feeling chipper.
Why's that? Good day?
No, it's wet. It's awful. Horrible weather here in Leicester.
Great. But you're still chipper.
But I'm remaining positive through it.
That's right.
Today we're watching Chinatown. Well, we've just watched Chinatown. Directed by Roman Polanski.
Very interesting film.
Yeah, I'm just going to have a look at what year it was released.
Go and have a look.
I will. I can tell you it was in the 70s. I think it was 74.
74.
1974. Roman Polanski obviously was the famous husband to Sharon Tate, who was murdered by... who was actually pregnant at the time, murdered by members of the Manson family, famously. Was the subject of the latest Quentin Tarantino film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with his spin on that sequence of events that we watched earlier in the It's Not That Deep, Bro
What?
catalogue. We watched that film a while ago.
We did.
It is a very interesting film. What did you think of it, Martin?
From the shit that we've watched before, it's a lot more calm.
Yeah, well, it's a lot more grounded in reality,
Yeah.
I'd say.
Like he was a very good detective.
Jack Nicholson playing Jake the Snake.
Jake the Snake.
Have I made that up? I was thinking it all film. Jake the Snake. Did they call him that once in the film? Have I made that up?
Yeah, I think you've made that up.
Jake the Snake might be a wrestler.
I don't think... What?
But his name's Jake in the film. Is
Yeah.
my point. And
Jake
I
the
love him.
Snake.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, like... No one called him that in the film. I was like,
Well, that's
what?
fine then. It was just a creation from me. That's fine.
Fair enough. He was very cunning.
Cunning.
Like a snake.
There you go. No, forget the snake. He plays Jake, who is a private detective, and I love Jack Nicholson in this film. He's fantastic.
Jake Geddes.
Jake, Mr. Geddes.
Geddes, yeah.
And yeah, you've just come off hot off the heels of this film. How'd you feel about it? Explain to the people what you've just experienced.
It was very smooth. I like the way it just flowed instead of like these.
Well, what's it about? Let's start there.
It's about a woman
Okay.
who wants to know. Before that, you find out that Mr. Geddes, Jake Geddes, is a private investigator.
He is, indeed.
And he was hired to find out if a certain woman's husband was cheating on her. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We then find out that the woman that paid him to find out if her husband was cheating was not actually his wife.
Aha. You followed this well. It's a complicated plot.
It is, but...
And we see Jake...
Pinpoint it.
Yeah, you've paid attention.
Yeah.
And he also finds out that there's a kind of drought situation going on in the film set in California. And, there's a big drought, and all these kind of different things that Jake comes across all begin to kind of start having connections between them. The woman that's paid him to find out whether her husband is cheating on her. The other woman that's paid him to find out whether that's happening or not. Say it again. You said it better than me.
What? You find a woman has paid him to find out if her husband is cheating on her. But the woman that paid him to find out was not actually his wife. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
We need to find the name of these women. There's a lot of women in this film.
I'm not sure what... she played... Well, she put...
Mulray.
Yeah, Mulray.
Mrs. Mulray. Evelyn Cross Mulray. And then there's Noah Cross, who's her father.
Yeah.
And then he has to deal with also the local police force. And he has to deal with... Lou. Who... See, Lou Escobar. Lou Escobar's a good man, kind of.
Yeah, he's sort of like trying to clean up the...
Well, I say this. Actually, fuck everyone in that film.
Why?
Well, think about... We've literally just finished watching it. The ending, mine.
When it's just...
It's awful. It is truly sickening.
Yeah.
Like, it is an awful... Like, I laugh just because it... To make light, because to truly say what happens at the end of Chinatown is brutal. Throughout the film, Jake references Chinatown. He's worked there in his past, and he references it with a kind of fear in his eye. It's fine. He references it with a sort of fear, you know?
Yeah.
And like
something...
something...
It's not a good place to be.
He doesn't want to talk about it so much. And you kind of get this thing, you're wondering why, what happened in Chinatown. And I guess that's why the film's called Chinatown. You know, what's so bad that could happen in Chinatown. And
you get to see what.
Yeah, we do find out. And, you know, I don't want to ruin it too much because I really do. I recommend you go out and see this film because it packs, as Martin said, the first word he used to describe it was smooth. And it is smooth. Like, it looks beautiful. I think it's one, you know, the reason we're watching it is because I like all of it. There's nothing, I love the soundtrack with its like, when it's intense, it's like big plonking piano notes and stuff like that. And then when it's a bit more laid back, it's all like soft, it's like the the cornets and trumpets with the mutes in. And,
I like how he's very good at what he does. He's incredibly good. There's not been a lot of films where I watch where they're like, it's not done without like different effects, like somebody being in his ear, being like, oh, go to the left, there's men there, or like, do you know what I mean? Like being told by computers or whatever. This is like detective work where it's...
Being a private investigator, it makes him a impartial party. And he doesn't have to necessarily act within the confines of the law. It's just about getting a specific thing for a customer. So that's why, like, Jake being a private investigator allows this film to exist, because he gets to view all the different facets of the city that he's investigating in. You know, different the police department, Mrs. Mulway, and he can see it all objectively, basically. But as the film like ramps up, it kind of like tricks you with that smooth feel for the whole thing, because he is really good at his job, and
But he's also like, he's got a good heart about it.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Jake's like the only good person in the film.
Yeah, like,
which
he's just constantly trying to do good, and he doesn't care about so much about the money.
No,
but it's more like
the truth.
Yeah, I want the truth out, because he could have just like got paid by that guy, by that woman 5,000, and then told the other guy to pay him 10,000.
And he could have completely, it would have made his life easier. He would have made money. He could have carried on doing his career.
But
that's not what Jake's about.
No. I like that.
It makes him a likable character.
Good character.
And Jack Nicholson's just like perfect for the role. In you remember him in The Shining. He was like,
he's very good.
You can see, I need to see
the difference.
I need to see more films, but you can also see bits of like his character in The Shining in Jake as well. I feel like Jack Nicholson's one of those characters, a bit like Leonardo DiCaprio, where like he's himself. You see a bit of him in all his characters. Yeah. But yeah, without giving too much away, I'm trying to think about how to talk about the end of Chinatown without completely giving it away.
But
I think, again, in the same way I've said that, like, that's a scary film to me, man. That's a horror film, in my opinion.
You think so?
Yeah, because thematically, what happened, like, at the end, that's a shock ending.
It's so shocking, though. Like, what did that? There was a question that I had, and it was like, at the end, that woman shot father.
Yeah.
And he just like walked away from that like nothing happened.
It looked like she had like blank bullets or something.
No.
He just grabbed his arm, didn't he?
No, you saw a hole.
I don't know if I saw a hole.
You saw a hole.
He grabbed his arm.
Yeah. Like it was just like, I dislocated my arm, sort of.
And
but
then
you saw a hole go through the...
I don't remember seeing a hole, but
either way, it was just.
I remember
dumb.
watching it and thinking, did he die, or just what happened there?
Who, the father?
Yeah, I remember seeing that scene and wondering what happened there. But you know, it's just one of those things that I don't. There's a lot more going on in that scene than that.
Yeah. There was a lot more going on.
And I guess the kind of you call it. I like this film because it's what you call Kafka-esque. I think I might have spoke about Franz Kafka before. I'm going to get this wrong. I think he was from the Czech Republic, but I could be well wrong about that. And he was an author. He's probably most famous for a thing he did called The Metamorphosis, which is about a young boy that wakes up and he's a cockroach. Or like an insect. And everyone in his life hates him. Basically.
Right. Yeah.
So this young kid had some problem. He was like a emotional guy, but way back before an emo was a thing or any of that. And for something to be Kafka-esque, basically what that means, he has another well-known book called The Trial, which is about, again, a kind of young man that wakes up. These men are in his room, and they're like, "Come on, you're coming with us." And he's like, "Whoa, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, no. We'll tell you later. You got to come with us." And he just goes through a series of things like that, and it just becomes more absurd, and he never finds out like why and what's going on, and to the point where it becomes like a nightmare. And that's the cockroach one as well. Like everyone in your life hating you, that'd be a nightmare. Sort of thing. So that's what Kafkaesque would mean. And I'd say this film is Kafkaesque in the sense that it starts off like any private investigator, like any, you know, a case that any private investigator might take on. But by the end of it, you're like, no. Like, that's how I feel at the end of that film. From the minute that he starts talking to Evelyn's father, and he shows them the glasses. From that moment on, it's like, oh, fucking no, shit.
Yeah, some shit's about to happen. But for somebody who was, because he's in the movie, you find out that he was a police officer. Wasn't he in the Navy as well?
I think he may have done some time, in the forces.
Whenever there was a fight, he wouldn't fight very well for like a Marine or a police officer. Do you know what I mean?
You get really sucked into the realistics of the whole situation.
Yeah, I do. Just because of like
74. It's a while ago, this film.
I know. But even then, there would be anyone that was military that would give you a sort of like...
You want that Jake the Snake. Oh, I need to stop calling him that, Jesus Christ.
Jake Gredis.
You want that Mr. Gredis prequel film where you see him in the forces doing all his training. And
I would appreciate
at the
it.
end of that film, you want an explanation. Maybe he like has an injury that makes him leave the forces, and that's why he becomes a private investigator and can't fight as well in the forces. You want that whole timeline fleshed out for Chinatown to be a valid film.
Well, it's valid already. I'm just saying that if you're building a character,
they did a second one.
They did a second one
with Jack Nicholson that came out in the 90s. Apparently, it's terrible.
You've never watched it?
I've not seen it, no. I've only recently seen this film, to be fair, this year.
It's a very good film.
You enjoyed it?
I did enjoy it.
I wondered, because it was very... I was like... Obviously not now, we've watched loads of films, but when I first met you, for example, one of your favourite films was like Pacific Rim. And just whilst in the middle of this, I was watching it and I was like, this is a world away from any of that. But
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I enjoy films.
Yeah, I'm glad you got something out of it because it's long and it is from the 70s.
The only reason I came up with that whole fighting thing is because I question everything now. I just look at it and I'm like, why is that happening?
Since doing this podcast.
Yeah, why is that happening? Why is that man, if he's been in the army, not good at least above fighting training or something?
I mean, I suppose it's a rational thing to be wondering about. I was just thinking, I think another thing about this that makes... You mentioned that Jake's really good at his job. And that's what makes the ending even more shocking because he's seen the whole thing through really thoroughly. Like, he has looked under every rock in the city to try and solve the case. And even... That's like Lou Escobar. He knows about that whole thing. You find out at the end. Which is like... crushing. He's been like speaking to Escobar throughout the whole film about this whole thing, and he knew the whole time.
And he's the policeman.
And he's the head of like the police for the whole thing. So it's, and again, without getting too close, that ending, Mrs. Mulway's so desperate to not let the person that she's trying to keep safe fall into the wrong hands.
Yeah.
And God.
And it just happened.
And you'll notice until the credits roll and music starts playing, from that gunshot and the car rolling to the halt, all sound. It's only like human voices and actual sound from like, there's no, in the fight scenes you'll hear like, ooh, and like sounds that have been added and there's nothing. It's like dead. Because that's like how you feel in that situation.
Yeah.
You're like, all hope's gone at that point. You're like, anything...
For humanity, anything.
That is not a good ending.
It's not.
It is not
at all.
a film with a happy ending at all. And it's actually it's heavy. It's
with
really
the whole,
heavy.
like, aesthetic of the film, it makes sense.
Oh, it completely fits in.
Yeah.
It's like the best ending. It's a real good bit of filmmaking.
It's a real kicker.
It's a real kicker. Like, I think it's a really good film. I think a film should do that sort of thing. This film certainly makes you think afterwards, and it doesn't. I wouldn't recommend watching this film to somebody if they were feeling down or like needed a pick me up. I'd watch this film to knock yourself down a peg. I'd reckon, yeah. So if someone was acting cocky, I'd be like, "Go watch Chinatown."
Yeah, but it'll just make them like, if it's the right person, it could make them hate humanity even more to do something about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, let me just fucking blow up this whole country because everyone's fucked.
Well, if any piece of art generates that response, then you should spend less time consuming art and more time working on your mental makeup and ingredients of your mental soup.
Yeah, try telling that to someone about that is feeling that way.
Okay,
that
so
way. It won't work.
You think? Well, I probably agree that Chinatown should have a trigger warning. It's a heavy film. Like, it's, you know, if you're sensitive to themes of like emotional abuse and stuff like that, and childhood abuse, it's going to be a difficult one to watch. But I think it also speaks volumes about the kind of corruption and Jake's disbelief about how widespread the whole thing is. Well, when the case began, he couldn't have fathomed that it would have been the whole city would have been in on it. And it's a whole thing that goes through different clubs and charities that are set up through California, and it has things to do with the drought and the weather and like a bit of land that's being sold that's very fertile that in upstate California that all the rich people that own downtown California are investing in, and everything has a knock-on effect in that film. And you couldn't anticipate how widespread the corruption is, but I think that speaks to how widespread corruption is in reality. That we're seeing more and more kind of as headlines come out.
Especially now with this whole pandemic business. It's a very divided country.
We live in a time right now, Martin, when true and false mean nothing. I'm not there's no barometer for truth.
Why do you say that?
Because every single person has a phone available to them, which has all the information one could ever need on it. And the social media landscape and the nature of the internet provides anybody to be able to back a point up with several misinformed articles, because there's so many different news publications and so many different news outlets that favour a certain point of view. So therefore anyone can be correct in a general sense if we're not holding ourselves to an objective truth sort of thing. Then it's all just an opinion, isn't it? It's all just, well, I've got 5 articles on here that back my point of view up, and then there's Ted over on the other side of the room that's like, well, I've got 7 articles that back my point of view up, and it's just endless nonsense. But that is incredibly unstable footing to be living on constantly, which is where we're at, I think, in 2020 with the global pandemic and world leaders speaking like they do and, just politicians, the whole thing. It's just nonsense. Hot nonsense. That's what I call it.
Still, there's a lot of the world's being divided into even more classes.
It's all labels, Martin.
Yeah.
You start labeling things and then you can point at it and say, that's that. I either like it or hate it. People are simple, fickle beings, unfortunately.
What can we do?
Learn from Jake, in brackets, the snake, end brackets.
Jake Geddes.
Or,
It was forget.
yeah, hold yourself accountable. Hold yourself to a level of accountability like Mr. Geddes, Mr. Jake Geddes does. You know, that he's an aspirational character. And, you know, I've not seen the second one. Maybe we'll get some... Maybe we should watch it at some point now we've done this one.
Yeah.
Because it will be
I didn't
interesting.
know there was a second one.
Jake looked quite traumatised at the end of that film.
Yeah.
And I imagine would have some mental scarring, but hopefully in the second Chinatown we see that does not deter... I actually think I just remembered a flash of what the blurb of what Chinatown 2 was about.
Really?
I think he goes back to Chinatown.
Again? Does he... Imagine.
I think
What?
he does. I think I recall seeing Jake goes
If
back.
it's the fucking same ending, I'll be like, what is going on?
Oh, it's not going to be the same end. I don't think it's anywhere near as good.
You don't think so?
I've seemed to recall seeing...
Does he talk about it for 6 hours?
No.
I went to Chinatown.
Well, it's just him in an old folks' home, like, I remember Chinatown.
Yeah, just telling stories.
What's my point about it being Jake being traumatized after experiencing Chinatown? Yeah, I was saying that you shouldn't be deterred by the truth may be traumatizing, I guess is the message of this film.
Yeah.
Does that mean we should abandon the pursuit for truth just because it is, if you know what I mean?
We shouldn't. I don't think we shouldn't.
We should head towards truth, shouldn't
Yeah.
we? Really, that's...
Constantly.
It's like ripping a plaster off, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know that you got to do that, and the truth lies under that plaster, the cut.
Yeah.
I mean, how long have we done mine?
You tell me.
I feel like we should probably talk some more about something.
Why? If it's done, we're done. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Short and sweet, you think?
yeah.
We'll try it out. Let's just see what the people think. What I will say is that we're sat here in our beautiful new studio at 24/7 Studios
Yep.
here in wonderful LC Leicester.
They're good times.
Well, we've had some... There is a person
Renovation.
behind us as well. His name is Brogan. We share this room, and Perry, Lee, and Raj, and Gino, and Voz, and Rich, and Gilroy, and just many people have put a lot of effort into making this room look like it currently does, and I'm very grateful for it. And we've got this nice new setup where we can watch the film and then talk about it seamlessly. So hopefully
That's right.
our operations will be a bit more fluid. What's your message to the people?
Don't cheat on your wife.
Isn't anybody gonna crowd? Anybody?